Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate all the amazing people working in the trenches to make Mississippi such a wonderful place to live, work, and play. We've had such a string of great guests recently. Actually, I would say we've had a string of great conversations over the past over 1,100 conversations over the more than 4 years. What a blessing it's been to do this show and find daily inspiration from it every day. I really look forward to getting up in the mornings and reading and preparing and staying focused on celebrating this incredible state. We will always have challenges, but boy, do we have so much to latch on to appreciate, to love. And that's what draws people here from all over the country. And I love kind of focusing on that. And one of the people I enjoy focusing on that with is my friend Paige Roberts, who's the CEO of the Jackson County Chamber. She's a consummate leader in the community, someone I just enjoy spending time with. How you doing, Paige?
I'm well. Thanks, Ricky.
It's good. Listen, since the last time we talked, you guys had a big celebration over in Moss Point around the rebuilding effort after the tornado. And it must have been a great celebration.
Oh, it truly was. And we really felt the Holy Spirit in this event. It was called dedication. I've always said in my disaster work, my two favorite days are Demolition Day and Dedication Day. So the Amish team that was there who had built the houses, and each of the homeowners are there, and there is the passing over of the house keys from the Amish to the homeowner. And then, as an especially beautiful sentiment, Mayor Knight presented the Amish with the key to the city.
Yeah, so beautiful. Hey, listen, Paige, thank you for your leadership. You know, I can remember after Hurricane Katrina watching so many amazing people like you that I can honestly know that the reality is we wouldn't have had that celebration, would not have had that dedication, that moment for the mayor to give this key to the city to the Amish who helped rebuild those homes, if it weren't for leaders in the community and volunteers in the community. And it came to fruition. And it's not just a couple of days after the tornado. This is a journey. And for the families that were impacted, the people who were impacted, who didn't have insurance and didn't know how in the world they were ever going to recover. It's so heartening to see the looks on their face as you help them close the loop on there is life after the tornado.
Absolutely, Ricky. I mean, that's basically it. We, the Long-Term Recovery Committee, and we, the entire coastal community, and all the others across the country who helped provide funding to make this happen, we gave them back their normal. And actually, quite frankly, we gave them back normal at a better state of being than it was before the tornado. That doesn't always happen, but it did in these cases. And now the homes they're in are built to withstand more than 150 miles per hour winds, which they did not have before. And they don't have the pipes bursting issue underneath, and they don't have leaks. It's just, it is an asset that they have been given. And we've worked very hard to work with them on understanding how to protect that asset moving forward.
You know, what's amazing to me, and it's a good opportunity to sort of focus on this for a second. I call, you of course, the first President Bush talked about the 1,000 points of light. And I've often referred to that here on this show. But when you have, like organizations after Katrina, like the North American Baptist Men who come here and stay for years, and the Amish community and others, and you just recently had this great experience with the Amish again in Moss Point, that look at them and to see their desire to give back to their fellow man, to travel long distances, to do whatever they can to help people not only recover, but really build back bigger and better and stronger, like you pointed out. Gosh, that is so inspiring. The 1,000 points of light, that's real, isn't it?
Oh, so much so. And I remember George H.W. Bush's talking about that when I was a teenager. In fact, he is where I learned the word altruism, because that was a word that altruistic was a word he used in his 1,000 Points of Light talks. So yes, the Amish alone are 1,000 points of light all unto themselves. But you look at all of the different players in this, and it is the true sense of community. And if you take a moment and just breathe it in, it is so overwhelming. But the overwhelming is the calm. It's a peace. It's a peace that you feel from just being in their presence.
Yeah, it touches you. It touches you so much. And it's one of the inspirations for this show. This need to connect to that, whatever this thing is, and in our fellow Mississippians, this resilient part of our DNA that attract people from outside, the state to come help us, that inspire each other. That's the thing that I want to make sure we never lose sight of, because the truth is there will be another tornado. There will be another hurricane. There will be other floods. There will be other challenges. There will be all kinds of things that we will face. And resiliency means the ability to bounce back. It means not just in terms of the physical structures and whatever was there before, but it's mentally, it's emotionally, it's the ability to really stay the course and be stronger, actually, when it's all said and done.
Yes, all of that, all of the above, as I like to say. The Amish team and the Mennonite Disaster Services group that does the administrative work behind the scenes for the Amish teams, they said to me, we have so enjoyed working with you and the entire community. We have had to pull out of communities, they told me, because of infighting and essentially territorialism. And I am not surprised to hear that, as disappointing as it is. But you're right. They would get on a bus at 17 hours and ride on that bus from the middle of Ohio to South Mississippi multiple times back and forth from November to April. So yeah, it says something about us, and it certainly says something about them. And to piggyback on what you're saying, Ricky, on resiliency, our Education and Workforce Development Committee hosted an education business summit a couple months ago. We had educators and employers in the room, specifically guidance counselors and behavior specialists, as well as HR professionals, to see what mental health challenges looks like on each side of that equation. And the commonalities were two. Conflict resolution is something we are so deeply struggling with in the workplace, obviously on social media, in our families, just anywhere. Conflict resolution and resiliency, that in some ways, as a people, we are losing or haven't found yet, especially in the young people, the kids at the schools, the ability to bounce back or let things roll off their backs. So we have planned on June the 4th, starting at 8 a.m. for 3 hours, our Summer Learning Summit. You can join us. It's absolutely free. You do not have to be a member of the chamber. Join us at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College cafeteria in Goche. And we will have Dr. Lisa Otherman out of Ocean Springs. She has her Doctor of Psychology, and she is going to walk us through ways to help resolve conflict in a more healthy manner and how to build resilience. As I said, this is an issue in the workplace, it's an issue in our schools, it's an issue everywhere.
And some people have more of a capacity to bounce back than others. That is real, and
But you can teach it. You can develop it.
Yes, there's no doubt you can. I saw it at the Sun Herald after Katrina. We had a full-time psychologist working at the newspaper for over 6 months, working with our employees to help us work our way through that. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with Paige, and we're actually going to reflect a little bit on this beautiful poem from Gloria Gaither called "Listening to the River" that Paige shared with me. It sort of kind of goes with this conversation in a way. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I really always enjoy visiting with my friend Paige Roberts, because we'll get to the latest at the chamber here in just a second. But our conversations are always deep and reflective, and you can't help it. It's where it goes, isn't it, Paige?
It is, and I think it's divine.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Listen, I had this wonderful conversation with Robbie D'Angelo recently, and we had this long discussion about, if there was a theme for the show, is that we're not picky enough, about who we surround ourselves with. We're not picky enough about what we put into our bodies, but not just our heads and our stomachs. We're not picky enough about our time. And we just had a long discussion about that, and this notion about physical and mental health and how to really think about it. And we're not focused enough about that. I've shared some thoughts from Steve Jobs, some things that he shared as he was dying. And one of the things that he said, treat your food as your medicine, or your medicine will become your food. Think about that for just a second. We don't think enough about that. He talked about cherishing the people around him. And here's this guy who was very difficult to work with. He demanded a lot of people. He was really, really tough. But in his final days, he reflected about how important the people are around him, and how we should be appreciative and live in the moment and all that. Hey, listen, as we typically do, we share things back and forth, and you shared this beautiful poem with me. It's from Gloria Gaither. You can remind people who she is, but it's called "Listening to the River." And I want you to share it if you don't mind, but first tell us who Gloria is.
Sure. Well, Gloria Gaither is a longtime songwriter and author. She and her husband, Bill Gaither, are known for their many, many songs and their Homecoming series, which is often on television over the weekend. Bill has the Gaither Vocal Band. And she wrote a hymn that is especially popular in a lot of Protestant churches called "Because He Lives." And it was actually written right after their third child, Benji, was born. He and I met in our freshman English class in college, and that's how I came to know them. And they have been very close family friends. In fact, Gloria, just about 5 years ago, along with some others, saved my life in finding on-site a place in Nashville for me to get some really intense, much needed mental health care and focus on my own well-being. So Gloria has this blog called "Love Song to My Life," and that is where this poem, where her blog piece is found for this week.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful poem. She just wrote it May 21st, 2024. So why don't you share it with the audience? I think they'll appreciate this.
It's called "Listening to the River." Lord, it is so easy to take things into our own hands, get ahead of your timing, mess things up. How impatient I am, how arrogant sometimes, thinking I can bring about justice, hoping I can precipitate heart change, believing that I can hasten the coming of your kingdom in the souls of other people. Let me learn from the river, Lord, day by day, year by year, decade by decade, it flows to the sea. No matter what men do to try to change its course to accommodate and facilitate their self-serving purposes, the river persistently, consistently responds to the magnet of the great waters. It seeks its own destination from a source deep in the bedrock of the planet. For a while, men and engineering genius can reroute the river, but rise the high floods, descend the drought years, the river from its deep source recarves its path to the sea, to the arms of the embracing sea. And in its pure and unquenchable thirst for the sea, its current carves through an obstacle in its path. Mountains are dissected, plains are traversed, valleys are created. In the natural course of its mission, the river serves. It carries rich soil to the riverbend farmlands. It makes a way of transportation across flat stretches of prairie. It irrigates strips of food-producing and life-sustaining land in the midst of the desert. Fish thrive in its cool moving waters. Birds and wildlife grow fat along its banks. But all these things are only results, never for the river's own purpose. The driving force is just the simple and powerful pull of the sea. Lord, I want to seek you. Let the passion of my life be to lose myself in you. Let the deep desire that springs from the bedrock of my being be to flow to you. Keep me unaware of any result except the deep peace of knowing that part of my spirit has already reached its destination and is at rest in you. May the journey of my life cut its way through any obstacle for the insatiable hunger to empty itself into the great sea of yourself. You, the source, you, the destination. Whatever else may happen today, let it only and always be the natural result of a river flowing to the sea.
That is so beautiful. And listen, it's interesting. I just told Paige, thanked her for sharing that with me, but then I asked her just before the show started, would you mind reading that? And your accentuations were perfect, and I really appreciate you sharing that. But life is like a river. The challenges. I mean, think about the resiliency that we face, and when it talks about the riverbed farmlands and what it provides and all of these things, but the obstacles in its path, the mountains are dissected, plains are traversed, valleys are created. That's us. Our lives are like that. It's so perfectly applicable just because you think about the Pascagoula River, the largest undammed waterway in the United States here on one end of coastal Mississippi. And then even though the Mississippi River doesn't touch coastal Mississippi, it does through the Bonnet-Carré Spillway, unfortunately, and how that impacts us there. But the reality of comparing our lives to the river and the challenges we face, it's just so perfect. It's beautiful.
And I think, Ricky, that noting that the river evolves through all of those things you mentioned, the dissecting, the traversing, it is affected by its environment as we are. I just think that this May, our Mental Health Awareness Month, is a time to take a moment and notice the river. Appreciate the river. The river, as you mentioned, our beautiful singing river over here in Pascagoula, the great Mississippi River, but also the river of our hearts and our own spirits.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And, I look forward to continuing the conversations around mental health, so particularly as it relates to teen suicide. And we will get our focus back there in a very significant way. And we'll have more shows about it because I never wanted any discussions about teen suicide to be a flash in the pan. It has to be something we stay focused on.
Well, yes, and we are. In fact, the Hope Squad training for the adults at the educators at the 7 middle schools and 7 high schools across Jackson County is at the end of this month. So it's just next week. And we'll have Hope Squads in place in all of those 14 schools starting in the fall.
Well, let's do this in advance of the fall. Just keep your eyes and ears open for some folks who go through the training who would be terrific guests to come join us so we can, really document those journeys.
Yes.
And of course, SuperTalk is going to get heavily involved as we go forward. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, documenting that journey is part of our plan in speaking with Senator England and then some of his comrades up there at the legislature, is to document what happens in Jackson County to see, like our career coach program, is this something replicable and beneficial to all of Mississippi?
I'm watching Jeremy England very closely.
We all are.
I think he has enormous potential. He is so smart. He is so willing to cross the aisle. He is so willing to work with both houses of the legislature to make things happen. You can't just introduce a bill and get it passed on your side, in his case, the Senate, and then sit back and say, I've achieved something. He understands that success is the House has got to sign it and the governor's got to sign it. And he's not stopping until he makes sure all these pieces. He is just extremely talented, and I'm looking for big things from Jeremy England. I really am. Anyway, hey, listen, Paige, it's been a pleasure. We'll get together in the very near future and get the latest on the chamber.
Absolutely. What a pleasure and what a blessing today, Ricky.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel the same way. Have a great day, and we will see. We'll see JT Mitchell, news director from SuperTalk Mississippi News, right after this.